Screen.
Good evening. This is the June meeting of the Norwalk Parking Authority. If you are joining us on Zoom and would like to make a comment, which is our first our first agenda item, we ask that you make your comments, limit your comments to 3 minutes, if you would please. And keep in mind that public comment is an opportunity for us to hear the points you're raising, but it's not a dialogue. So we will collect the information that you deliver and take it up later in the meeting or at a future meeting. So if there's anyone from the public wishing to make a comment, please raise your hand.
We have no one for public comment, Eric.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So the second item on the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Are there any comments to discuss?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, just one amendment. I recalled, I think it's just a typo for calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. instead of 5:30. That's all.
Oh, yes, it certainly was 6. So Brian, how did those corrections get captured?
I'll take care of it, and then we'll just reapprove them. You know, you'll approve the amendment next month.
Okay, perfect, excellent, thank you. Thank you. So if there's no further discussion, we'll have a motion to accept.
We can accept as amended.
Okay, let's then we'll make that. So whoever's going to make the motion, maybe that's the way you word it.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the single adjustment for convening time.
Thank you, Matt. May I have a second?
A second.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. So item number 3 is engineering report and project report. So Sirach.
That's actually me, Chairman.
Oh,
you guys see my
yes,
screen?
sorry.
You see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So just a quick update on the Yankee Doodle exterior repairs and improvement. A lot of progress has been made since last time we spoke. I'm going to share some pictures of that progress. Basically, all the ribs have been cut on the alleyway side by where all the storefronts or store backs are, as well as the Belden Boulevard side. The contractor is scheduled to finish this part of the project next Monday. I'll show you in the pictures, but we have a scheduled walkthrough tomorrow to coordinate the next phase of the repair, which will impact some other spaces, but the garage will continue to remain open. So some of the pictures, this is what the cuts look like with the exposed rebar. So what they did was the contractor went down the line, started cut them at the they're all level. And here's some more pictures of those cuts. It really opens up the garage. Looks great. And these are the concrete molds. That's what they're finishing up on the entranceway to the alleyway side today, or they should be off on Friday, and then on Friday they're going to go to the Belden Boulevard side. So this is the before. This is a before page. This is how it used to look, and here's how the entryway looks as it is now, and on the Belden Boulevard. I didn't get pictures of them cutting the Belden Boulevard because I was in Columbus at the time.
That was great.
Brian, do you know if any special attention was paid to that joint between the old and the new?
There was actually very detailed planning that went involved with the joints of this garage, and that's why the first cut was very important, just to see where the joint was to where the cut was made. And everything was great. Everything went well. It's below the joint, so I think it's going really well.
I just looking at that, it looks great, but with that, what did you call it? That end cap that they formed on there?
Mm-hmm.
That joint at that long rib, I could imagine a lot of wind-driven rain, water coming down, getting into the joint, freezing, and it becomes a maintenance issue, but we'll find out.
Yeah, so when they go through it, the whole part is to patch up some of these areas where water's penetrating the structure. So that should be addressed by the completion of this part of the project.
Uh-huh, okay.
If I can just ask
Oh, Peter.
same,
Yeah, go ahead.
along the same lines. So when they cut that first, vertical piece, I'm just curious why they didn't make it a little higher, Brian, and leave the rebar out of it completely. If you go back a couple of pictures, it was a perfect picture right there.
So the
So-
rebar is necessary for the additional concrete. It needs it there to adhere to the rest of the
No, my question was kind of, instead of cutting it where they cut it, if they cut it maybe 8 inches lower, they would have kept that rebar, covered.
I can't comment because I don't know the reasoning behind it. I could try to find that answer for you through maybe our, with Ken Sugarman, who did the plans for this, to kind of give you a better detail. But I wouldn't feel comfortable speculating on that because I'm not really sure why they cut it at a certain level.
So that was my question. I just didn't know why they did it that way. That's
Yeah.
because they cut it and then they put the patch on. And I'm sure there's a good answer to that.
Yeah, I can ask Ken to kind of, elaborate to get the commission an answer for that.
Thanks, Brian.
Got it. Let me just write that down. Okay. So overall, the project's going well. Looking forward to this getting completed so we can start the exterior, or sorry, the improvement on the facade.
Yeah, it looks great.
I agree.
So if there's no further discussion on that, now it's time for you, Sarai.
Sure. Brian, you want to stop sharing? Thank you. See my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Want to start with financial for the month. We finished with negative fund balance for the month, and this is due to the slightly missing our budget revenue by 3.7%, and then also a 24.3% increased in operating expenses. On the revenue side, the main underperformance came from Maritime Garage, Haviland, and Webster Lot that put us below budget. And on the expense side, the 24.3 increased expense came from the accrual that was approved last month, under repair and maintenance. With that, we finished with a negative fund balance for the month. From month to month and prior year comparison, revenue is up for the month, comparing it to the last month, and this is mainly coming from permit and increased permit and violation revenue. Transient activity, it's down for the month, and comparing it to prior month, and also prior year, the transient activity is down. And the major decline that we're noticing for transient activity is Haviland Tech, Maritime Garage, and the on-street activity. On the permit side, both from prior month, we're seeing increased demand for permit, and that's coming mainly for the month of May. That came mainly from Webster Lot, which the the bridge project added some additional permit at the Webster parking lot, and revenue is also up comparing it to prior month and prior year. Variance section, we have two variance reports for building repair and maintenance and security services. The repair and maintenance, that's due to for the accrual that was approved last month for the May financial report. And on a year to date, as well as month to month, for the month, we are up on repair and maintenance due to that accrual. Security services, for the month of May has, the expense was higher, and this is due to for security cameras that needs to be replaced at the Maritime Garage, at the South Norwalk Train Station Garage, and at the Webster lot. And this is the full financial package. The two highlighted line items, expense line items, are the ones that we described on the variance report.
Hey, Rocky, what's driving things like office expense and signage?
Office expenses are the expenses that are for the office use, for paper, any office material that we use. For signage, it is signs that we constantly update. The minimal amounts, Matt, are for signages that we update on a constant basis. But if you see a bigger amount for signage, it is for, let's say, the signage is for the street signs are being changed over, then you'll see a major sign expense hitting the month for the month.
Okay, so I misspoke on signage. I guess I meant tickets, because I'm just looking at, we're over budget on the annual budget for things like office expense and tickets, but we're obviously under in things like signage and uniforms. Just wondering if there's, some sort of issue with,
For uniforms, Matt, I'll start with uniforms. We do budget it when we do the budget. We budget every month, and when we order it, you will see in 1 month hitting it, because we don't know exactly when we order. And as much as we can, we try not to order the uniforms if they're well kept. The uniforms, that is why you're seeing it. And on even on a year to date basis, we're under budget. On the signage, as I mentioned earlier, it is for those type of expenses that hit unless there's a major order. On the office expense of it, ticket expense, I remember beginning of our fiscal year, July, we ordered tickets for the South Norwalk and Maritime Garage. It was a bulk order because for the two garages. That's what it hit 1 month, and then you will see it throughout the month not hitting it, and then on a year-to-date basis, it balanced out.
actually I'm seeing that we're over budget for the year.
For the year. Correct. For the year, it is over budget because we ordered it at the beginning of the year for the full year. And that is why it is a little bit higher. And we also under budgeted for the full, the full amount of the year ticket expenses.
Okay.
What line item, Matt, do you want other explanation on? Your office expense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what's driving the office expense to kill the year's budget with another couple of months left to go.
We might be a little over budget on a year to date, Matt, on the office expenses, but office expense constitutes the amount of tickets mails that we sent out. So we might go over budget depending on the usage of supplies that we have, and that's why it's a little over budget on the office expense of it. And some if you look at the operating expense, we're under budget. So some crossover, maybe some of the operating expenses might hit office expense might hit operating and operating into office. So combining those two, we're still within the budget for the year.
Okay, thanks.
System-wide activity, overall our transient activity is 2.8 below budget last year, but on the revenue side, we're 5.1 above last year. As we constantly mentioned this in the previous reports as well. The reason for it is the majority of the transient revenue that are coming are from the higher transactional values, like the Maritime Garage and the overflow lot and the South Norwalk train station, and the declines that we're seeing are from the smaller amount areas. This is it, the revenue. Permits, we're constantly continually seeing an increased demand at the South Norwalk train station, Haviland Deck, and also at Yankee Doodle Garage, and from coming from McMahon Forge, and also for the month of April and May, the bridge construction have added about 30 permits into our permit demand. So that's the increase that you're seeing for the month of May, and those went to the Webster Lot parking lot. And then also we added just in this one Vice Chair CPAC requested last in constant communication about what percent of the revenue that permit represents. So it's 33.9% of the total system revenue comes from the permit revenue. On-street parking, on this page, I would like to to update the package that you have has an error. When I pulled the report, it pulled the April report, so you'll see on those graphs your package stops in April, so it picked up the April report, not the May. So I updated the graphs, and then also there was a typo on the year-to-date May revenue. It was saying 1.01% down. I apologize for that. It was a typo. It's 11.1% down in revenue, and I apologize for that typo. So May on-street transient activity is down, and we're constantly seeing the transient activity on the on-street side is declining, and that is the leisure and nighttime activity being down. We're also counting lunchtime and dinner time empty spaces on the major street areas. So we're noticing South Main, North Main area and Sono are seeing a lot of empty spaces during lunchtime and dinner time. In the past, those streets used to be packed, and we couldn't find spaces. Lately, we've seen some empty spaces on those streets. And uptown area is the reverse. River Street, Wall Street, Main Street, seeing an increased activity month to month. So there's the difference between our Sono and Wall Street area.
Do you, I guess it sounds like Wall Street is stealing business from South Norwalk, so to speak?
I'm not sure if it's stealing business.
Not stealing, but I mean, my wife and I, we go out a fair amount, and I have to say Wall Street is as busy, on a Saturday night as South Norwalk now, where it used to be a ghost town. So
yeah, it could be, Jed, but we're seeing high demand areas, River Street, Wall Street, and Main Street, towards the Fort McMahon area, getting a lot of usages.
Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't sell ourselves short either. I think some of the initiatives that we've done in the past couple of years have made, I think, the Wall Street neighborhood a little bit more business friendly. I think the 15-minute free option that got implemented last month, the signs, and some of the items we're actually going to talk about shortly for South Norwalk's or the regulation change we're going to discuss. I think that could be part of it.
If I can just interject for a second, I'm on Wall Street, obviously, every day. That's where my business is. But you've got a developer who's buying up, I think it's over 40 properties now. And he I don't have any opinion about him, except that when he buys the properties, he fixes them up and he rents them out. And that's holds true with a lot of these restaurants that are really doing a business. So I think that you got to give him some credit for that too.
All right. On the parking enforcement side, comparing it to last month, ticket issuance was up, and this is due to, the opening up of the beach season. So that, and we opened the beach season May 15th. So the increase in, ticket issuance is coming mainly from the beach operation. For the month of May, there was 69 citations paid for beach operation worth of $8,840 for that are worth. And in here, it, try to figure, break it down into a different, section of percentage of our revenue. The monthly is 33.9. Transients represents 36.5% of our total revenue. The citations, combined is about, 19% with the late fee and the citation fines. And the rest is, 8.9 is coming from meter revenue. And in your package, this is also was pulling May, so we updated this one through May. This is a collection for through the end of May. Ticket issuance versus demand, we're seeing slight decline on ticket issuance versus demand in this report, and this report does not include the beach citation. That's why you're seeing the decline. With the addition of the added citation at the beach, this graph would have been different. And this is street by street ticket issuance. We still remain at 2.6% overall compared to last month, as well as comparing it to the prior year full 12-month comparison. Pay by cell. Before we start, Vice Chair Seebeck, you requested last month to update some of the pay by cell report, where we used to compare the pay by cell transactions to the system-wide demand and system-wide revenue. So we updated it just so it represents the demand versus transient only, not the system-wide comparison. So if pay by cell transactions represent 31% of transient demands and then 32% of transient revenue. So we're no longer comparing it to the total system-wide revenue, because the system-wide revenue includes the violation revenue and the permit revenue, where park pay by cell has no contribution to it. So to compare it, apples to apples, we're just comparing it to the transient demand and the transient revenue going forward. We're seeing an increased transient pay by cell usage, and in the coming month, Vice Chair Seebeck will try to include also the breakdown between transient off-street and on-street transactions paid by cell. Currently, it's at 30. Let me look up that file. Bear with me 1 second, please. We're seeing, on-street transactions for on-street versus off-street, so 52-48%. So on-street, most of the demands coming for pay by cell for on-street represent 48% of it, and then the rest is 52%. So it's evenly divided. But when comparing it to if we break the on-street spaces zone by zone, the variance would be a huge number. But right now it's 48, 52%.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right, with that would be my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Brian. So with that, the item 5 is the old business.
All right. Just a few updates to give to the commission this month. The Wall Street 15-minute free option. So we've had numerous updates in the piloted area of Wall Street this past year, which kind of touched on earlier. And pretty much every one of them has been received in a very positive way in that neighborhood. Most of the angled parking was eliminated. We have clearer signage that was installed, and the addition of our, the 15-minute free option to the meters from last month. The parking authority continues to be innovative, and I'm looking forward to taking what we've learned in this pilot area, and spread these best practices citywide, which will be discussed shortly in the new business section tonight. Just for May's, so some of information from May, we had 553 impressions of the free 15-minute free option. So 553 unique uses of that feature happened in half the month, because it started on May 15th. This option was used, and it was an average of 33 times a day. And this data is going to continue to be helpful in understanding what's going on at the curb level. It's too early to kind of gauge what's going on, but we're collecting it now. We can manage it. We're starting to manage it better. Any questions on that 15-minute option?
Yeah, I would just like to make note that I ask a lot of people, again, being on Wall Street, about what their feelings were for free for 15-minute parking that they have. Most the people that came in my store didn't even realize it. So I would tell them, and some people went back to the car, said, please do this, hit the button, and they're parking right in front of a pay station. And one of them was actually a former Common Council member. So, he didn't know anything about it. He assumed everything was still free 15 minutes because that's where the signage was previously hung. So I think education to the public is still huge, to keep looking at maybe better signage, or just to keep the public informed about what's actually taking place. But it sounds great. 553 free 15 minutes sounds really good.
I think it sounds good, but to be honest, I don't know if that's good or not. I think just word on the street's good, but I agree, and it's something you brought up last month, and we're looking on ways to make it a little bit more. The outreach needs to improve. So I fully understand that, and I think that when we hopefully get this option citywide, we can get a bigger splash of this to get it announced a lot more effectively and widespread than this one was.
I agree. To make
I
it,
think it makes sense. What you guys are saying makes sense. This being a pilot program, and the difference between that and going citywide is, citywide is going to be like the big reveal. This one is smaller just because it's a pilot, but but between now and then, which is what you guys are saying, we could speak with the Visit Norwalk marketing folks that do the postings, and we could get more information out there about this being available in the Wall Street area.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because we've learned a lot from this pilot, and that's one of them. That's one of the lessons learned, that we need to have a little bit stronger outreach than what we had.
Yeah, and also to get to the consumer, I know they don't allow free 15 minutes on the Park Mobile. I know you get whacked with a charge every time, but if we could do some way around that, whatever. I know, Brian, you were looking into it for sure.
Yeah, and it kind of leads me to what we're going to talk about next, right? So, if we can go back, to this. The next update was that, the International Parking Mobility Institute conference was earlier this month in Columbus, and as you can see, little Brutus, the Buckeye there. So go Ohio State. That was like one of the things we were kind of looking at, seeing what kind of features other vendors have, right? But we visited numerous vendors during the conference to see what the latest and greatest was. A few to note: overhead doors. As if you ever visit the Maritime Garage or even South Norwalk train station, the garage doors are pretty old and they're very slow. The high-speed doors, it was one of the things I wanted to see. We saw a couple vendors. I took a picture of the Rytec the Rytech doors, which you'll see a lot in some of the new developments in the area. And I know they have them in some of the new developments in Stanford, because I was living in one. But they're very fast. They're sleek looking, and they sync up to the park system. But that was one of them that we saw. I actually have a meeting with one of the vendors in mid-July to kind of show them the two facilities to see what it kind of looks like if we look to update those update those overhead doors. And then the other one to note was some of the mobile app vendors. Pay by Phone met with Park Mobile, Flowbird has them. And there was a lot of discussion on municipalities utilizing a multi-vendor approach to improve the customer experience by giving more choice to the users. Similar to how Uber and Lyft work. Currently looking for more information on that, just so we can bring some suggestions and recommendations to the commission to see if there's any opportunity to have a multi-vendor system in Norwalk to give customers a little bit more of a choice instead of just one app. Met with some park vendors as well. I snipped a picture of the new, this is the Park Connect system from Flash. We really, when Jim and I saw this, we were like, wow, that actually looks really nice. And the little, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, but the little device here is for door access to a condo. So we can have it synced up with the condo at Maritime if this is the equipment that we end up looking at to install. And there's a lot of innovation with park systems integrating with EV chargers and being able to reserve an EV charger in advance. So if you're electric vehicle driver, you can reserve a spot in a garage at the EV charger and have that parking fee and whatever fees that the rate would be to charge a car can be pre-reserved for that vehicle. We also attended multiple seminars on best practices, improving the customer experience, EV infrastructure, which was something I wanted to learn more about, crisis management, and modernization of curb management. It was a great conference, connected with a number of city officials and other parking colleagues. Looking forward to keeping in contact with them so we can help each other improve how parking can be seen as a innovative and in a positive way. I hope next year some of the commission can join us. It'll be in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Louisville Slugger baseball bat and the legendary Churchill Downs.
Thank you, Brian.
And that's what I got.
Excellent. If there's no further discussion on those items, then we'll move on to new business.
Yeah, just one quick question for Brian. Brian, of this conference that you went to, was there anything that really popped out to you that, hey, this is something we should really, I know it sounded like a great conference, but that you thought we might be able to implement going forward that was just a better way than what we have now?
So the multi-vendor app was very interesting, but I'm kind of reserved to give judgment on that yet because I haven't seen any studies saying it's a value add. What I do see I think one of the priorities that we need to take to heart is improving the park systems at both the South Norwalk Garage and the Maritime Garage. There are, some of these systems are leaps and bounds more connective and more user-friendly than what we currently have. It just makes it makes the customer experience very positive. And, some of the feedback we were receiving is it's kind of difficult the payment systems are kind of difficult and kind of clunky. Instead of being, hey, I have a cell phone, I can just scan my barcode and pay on my phone. And when I exit, the license plate reader another thing I didn't mention is a lot of these parks, not a lot of them, but some park systems are integrating artificial intelligence to their system that's not an LPR, it's an AI type software where it'll notice the vehicle, not just the license plate, and it'll recognize the car at the gate. And if you paid on your phone, as an example, it'll recognize that you made payment and it'll let you out without clogging up the entry or exit lane. So I think definitely improvement on the ingress and egress times of our garages is something of priority. And another one is the EV charging, our EV infrastructure, because it's
Thanks,
you know,
Brian.
you got it. You're welcome. So are you okay with me going for the next the new business item?
I believe so, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So the next the thing that we need to discuss now is regulation change. Now that the pilot program in Wall Street is pretty much proved successful, it's time to look at expanding the best practices to the rest of the city and the assets, the parking assets. The first step is to discuss and hopefully update the kind of confusing 2 and 3 hour restriction to a clearer 3 hour restriction. The next steps are to update the signs and how they are posted. I provided a sample picture of the updated signs in the piloted area. You'll see on the top right. As you can see, it's very clear versus the existing signs pictured on the left that are posted around the rest of the city. The last step would be to implement our unique 15-minute free option for the assets citywide. This option has been very positive and innovative way of managing the curb. I've received a few calls from local businesses in South Norwalk asking when they'll get this free 15-minute option. One of them being Carol Pellegrini of Pellegrini Jewelers. I also received an email that I would like to read on record from Adam Greenbaum of AGW Partners in support of this option. He's like, "Hi, Brian. It was so nice to speak with you. As discussed, I'm writing you an email here to confirm our support and excitement of the changes you are making to make parking less of a burden on small business owners in Norwalk. We are extremely thankful for you and your team's initiative and thoughtfulness. Please let me know if there's anything I can do further to support this initiative along with future ones." So there's word out there that this 15-minute option and these regulation, the piloted changes that the parking authority took on a year and a half, 2 years ago, it seems like it's working really well. And I think people are actually excited about it. The data we have collected during the pilot shows a few things. It shows a decrease in related violations by 11%. This shows us that customers have been understanding of the regulations, which leads me to make an assumption that the simplified and clearer signs are working. Confusion isn't as rampant, which caused a number of past violations. This would also sync up. This would also sync up all the neighborhoods. One clear and, more importantly, consistent time regulation throughout Norwalk, leading our customers to be better aware of parking in Norwalk, leading to that improvement on the customer experience. Once implemented, we are confident that we will see similar improvements. Customers are spending more time enjoying their time in Norwalk instead of worrying about parking, which helps with that experience. And more importantly, it really helps the local businesses have a better start to their engagement with their customers. If parking's good, their experience in that business is going to be even better. If parking's bad, the experience is behind. So it's good to see these improvements. So we're asking the commission to vote to expand these best practices we learned during our pilot, which I've laid out to extend to citywide.
So you're looking for us to take a vote on this tonight?
Yes. 'Cause
So then
if we
maybe the
do-
next,
Oh, go ahead.
and maybe the next step would be to open it for discussion.
So Brian, specifically, besides the 15 minutes, what are the changes that would occur in South Norwalk?
We would change the 3-way to the pay sign. Those would go. The 2 hour and the 3 hour regulation would turn into just a 3 hour regulation, which would avoid any confusion that people used to have.
Okay.
Judd, I saw you raise your hand. You have a question?
You mentioned a 11% decrease in something, but I didn't quite catch what that was.
In related violations to the timing regulation, expired meters. What's the other one, Rocky? I'm drawing a blank on that. There were a couple violations that
Time
decreased.
limit and expired, Brian.
Thank you.
And that's in the Wall Street district where the
Correct.
Okay. And I know, Brian, you and I have talked about this. Just wondering if anybody has any concern about decreased turnover on the street with this. You know, it's if someone can park for 3 hours, there's less turnover than if they can park for 2 hours. I don't know. I don't think it's concern. I don't think it's hurt Wall Street, so I'm guessing it's not going to hurt South Norwalk. But I just
don't
wonder.
So most of the data that we collected, majority of our transactions are about 2 hours. I would say, I think it was 15% in Wall Street was over 3 hours, or was 2 to 3 hours. So it wasn't the majority, but it was still a good chunk. And you know, Rocky brought up a good point when I was speaking with him about this, about some of the restaurant customers would come, they would get dinged with a violation because the 2 hour time limit when they got there changed, and they were kind of confused on how they went back. So they felt pressure into being out the door in 2 hours instead of just kind of relaxing. That was just some of the feedback that and Rocky, please add any context that I'm probably butchering, but it's you know, the pressure is kind of alleviated in the Wall Street area because they can hang out and relax and not look at their watch, be like, oh, I gotta go. I parked on street, gotta go in 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that I would be nervous about is, let's say you've got a person that's a part-time employee that's working 3 hours, you know, or close to it. That's something you don't want to have on parking right in front of a retail store. That's what I would try to stay away from.
And I think
hear what
that,
you're-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So, you know, Judd and I were actually talking about this too. It's, we want to have that business outreach where we're informing the business owners, managers, and hopefully employees to park in some of our off-street locations. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if, you know, if a regulation is 3 hours and someone wants to park there, there's not much we can do. But we're not really seeing a large percentage of those users there. And we haven't, and you know, Rocky, if you've heard any feedback on that, please add it, but I haven't heard any negative feedback besides maybe some people parking all day, and that's an enforcement problem. That's something we need to tighten up on to make sure that employees aren't parking in a spot over 2 or 3 hours.
That is correct, Brian. And also, Pete, for those employees that are parking actually on the street, you know, taking that advantage, you know, it's going to cost them more towards the end. And we're constantly educating them to park at the Maritime Garage at a discounted rate of $26. So comparing the, you know, the price that they pay for the 3 hours on the street, which is $450, you know, per day, it's more expensive for them to pay that meter. But some will still be doing it, but it won't be the majority of the employees.
Two other things I want to bring up. One, if we're trying to normalize the system throughout, make it consistent. This is a minor thing, but the post office in South Norwalk has 15 minutes of free parking. The post office on Belden Avenue is 30 minutes. I think they should both be the same, both be 30 or both be 15. It doesn't matter to me, but I think be consistent. The other thing in the Wall Street district, The start time is at 9 AM. In South Norwalk, it's at 8. I would like to see the 9 AM start time in South Norwalk too. It was a pilot program we did when we put the reverse angle parking in. I think it's been a success. At that time, there was only one coffee shop in the Wall Street area. Now we've got 3, and I know it's only an hour of time there, but I think every little bit helps. I drive down South and North Main virtually every single day, and I can tell you, Monday through Saturday, the streets are a ghost town until almost 11 AM. So I think the 9 AM change, we shouldn't be, there's a time and a place, in my opinion, to charge for parking, and there's a time and a place not to. That's what managed parking is. For me, managed parking is not just charging across the board whenever we can. So I would like to see that 9 AM change added to South Norwalk.
I think that's a good point. There's nobody in those parking spaces. I drive the same areas every morning. There's no one there in the mornings.
All right, so what I'll do, I want to get some data on this before any change happens. So let me do some homework this month, and then in the July meeting, I can bring some recommendations so the commission can, make an informed decision on those 2 items, the 30-minute and 15-minute confusion that we have at some of these locations for the free. And on top of it, we have this new option on the meters, and then the time change in South Norwalk to make it even with what we have at Wall Street.
Yeah, I'm around.
Sorry, guys. Brian,
Yeah.
Can you clarify that we actually control the parking spaces in front of the post office?
That's what I'm not sure on, because I think the signs are there, but I don't know if that's something that, I'm not aware if that's something we manage. I think we do violations there, but I don't know if it's in the past agreement that was agreed to, which that could have happened, but I gotta do a little bit of, I gotta do my due diligence to give you the information.
Great question, Matt. So.
There.
Yeah, just my 2 cents with the Belden Avenue post office. It's often a challenge to get out of there in 15 minutes. That's, like I said, I wish they were able to process their customers quicker, but it's never seemed to be that way. It always seems to take a long time over there. They have a long line, and that's for years. Like I said, I wish it was not the case, but anyway, that's it.
I'll take a look and get some findings for the next meeting.
Good idea.
So with that,
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adjust the on-street parking regulation to reflect 3-hour maximum. The adjustment to the signs related by Mr. Lutz, and the normalization of the commencement hour for pay and enforcement to reflect the pilot program from Wall Street.
excellent, Matt. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Judd. All in favor? Aye.
I just want to add, about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, Eric, I parked almost in front of your office at a pay station.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was allowed to pay for 3 hours of parking in the middle of the day. So
It is 3 hours there. Yeah.
it's been that way for a while. So even though the sign says 2 hours, it's been, you're aware of that too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't see everybody voted. It's unanimous, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. All right, Brian.
All right, I'll get the, since, Vice Chair, added the time change, we'll get that to reflect the changes as well.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Brian, I didn't mean to step on you there.
No, listen, I'm at your bidding, guys, and I appreciate that. And I think that, I think that this is a positive for the city, and we'll get this moving so it doesn't take us months. I want to try to shoot to get this done by, oh, I don't want to put myself in a corner, but I want to try to get done before the end of summer.
Just say soon, Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
soon. I'm gonna get it done soon, I promise. But it's important, and I want to make sure that we get this done. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good.
So if there's no further discussions, want to just thank everybody for being here tonight. And Brian, thank you for all your continued hard work and focus on all of the things we have going on. And Sirak, thank you so much for your focus on the reporting that you did. It's certainly very helpful.
I do need to add one more thing before we
Okay.
adjourn. We are going to host the July meeting at the Yankee Doodle Conference Room, but we're also going to have a hybrid capability. So if each of you can come for next month's meeting at Yankee Doodle, that'll be great.
So two things related to that. That if we're going to be using that monitor board thing that's in there, is that working smoothly? I mean, sometimes there seems to be hiccups with getting it up and running.
Yeah, the speaker on that first meeting we had was a challenge because it just automatically shut off. But the TV speaker works. I'm actually probably going to host it on my laptop, but it works fine. The camera works. It's just getting it was just that hiccup with the sound. It worked the last meeting we had, Chairman. It went really well.
Yeah. And then we figured out the HVAC system too, right?
I'm going to talk to Sirak and KB to make sure we get it more consistent. So we aren't sweating in the end of July.
All right.
I
So
think
I-
we fixed it last time, Eric.
I'd love to be at a live meeting, gentlemen, but I will not be there. I'll be
no.
on vacation. So if you could move it up a week earlier or whatever else might
Well,
work.
would you rather do it? And this was something I was going to put on next month's agenda, but do we have a meeting in August? Because if we don't have it in August, maybe we move the September one to the in-person. That'd be my year anniversary.
Peter, would you, if you're away, would you remote into the July meeting, or are you going to be?
I think I'm going to be in
disconnected?
Cutty Hunk, Mass. If anyone's ever been there, I don't know if they even have Wi-Fi in Cutty Hunk,
Yeah.
but it's kind of out by Martha's Vineyard. So I don't know the answer to that. I might
So
be able to
Peter-
get cell.
Peter, you're okay on July 17th?
Sure.
Is everybody else okay on July 17th?
Should work for me.
We could work out the details offline as well.
Okay. I appreciate it.
So July 17th, recommending moving the NPA then.
Yeah, and
You got it.
and then we could decide then about August.
Perfect.
Good.
Okay, then I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Matt. A
Second.
second. Thank you, Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, bye.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.